Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Oh, would you look at the time? It is time that we shall go and start another episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How is everyone doing today? Because holy crap, this was a bit of an unexpected week. I thought that we can have things calm and cool, but today, however, we got a bit of continuations regarding some stuff that happened last week, but also at the same time, we got a bit of surprises where I'm going to be discussing about something that I haven't done in a very, very, very long time, which is talking about the box office. Because I can tell you right now, I know some people might not necessarily be that interested, but there are plenty of very fascinating discussions to get into when it comes to the box office, especially with things that did happen this week. So, there's definitely going to be a lot of real good talk to go and discuss about. So, with that said and done, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it in the chat wall. Are you all ready? Let's see now. Okay, where are they? Ah, there they are. Okay. They're starting to slowly pick up. All right, we got some. All right, that's perfect. They're slowly picking up, and now there it is. There is the traction. There is the excitement that I am waiting to see. So now, with that said and done, it is now time that we shall go and get this episode started. And with the first subject that I would like to talk about, it's going to be the continuation of the biggest paranoia that's been corrupting the internet lately: cancel culture. I honestly thought that last week, my big discussion about the whole scenario with not the Cat in the Hat, but with Dr. Seuss, like, you guys remember that whole controversy. I thought that I would just lay everything down last week with that story right there, and then we could all just move on, and hopefully the whole, like, craziness about cancel culture would just die down, and people could just go and move on from that. No, unfortunately, that's not what happened, though. No, people still want to make that traction of cancel culture continue to flow and have everyone paranoid and freaked out and all fighting against each other over some of the most insignificant things that they could go and find. And people already moved on from the whole craze with Dr. Seuss. But now they decided to go and move to something else, and I thought that would just be a quick thing that, like, it would just come and go. But nope, it seems to be the biggest discussion of animation this week. This is possibly the biggest animation news of the week, so I guess it's unavoidable for me to talk about it. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about Pepe Le Pew. Yes, apparently Pepe Le Pew this week is considered to be the new target of cancel culture, or was the big target of cancel culture this week. As I am recording this, things started to die down with Pepe Le Pew, but still, the craziness that occurred with this character in particular, oh man, it can give any mentally stable person a massive headache just to see the pure stupidity of it all. So, what exactly happened with the whole thing with Pepe Le Pew, and why is it that he's being considered to be quote-unquote cancelled? Well, apparently, it actually all started last week when there is an article on the New York Times, a little opinion piece made by columnist Charles M. Blow, to which he actually criticized Pepe Le Pew. And it's for the same reasons why Pepe Le Pew in recent years has been criticized. You know, the fact that he would keep on behaving like a creeper, that he would go after women, he would be chasing women, and have no understanding of consent. This is the kind of guy that has no understanding that no means no. It's a discussion and a piece of controversy that we have been hearing throughout the, not just years, but throughout the decades as well. If you're an animation fan, the chances are what we have went through this week with Pepe Le Pew and the discussions about the character, this is totally not your first time going through that. I'll discuss more about that later, but you guys know what I mean, that this whole criticism against Pepe Le Pew, it's nothing we haven't heard of before. However, because of the recent craze of cancel culture, there have been some right-wing media outlets like Fox News and right-wing grifters like Ben Shapiro who would immediately go and pick this up and just shout out cancel culture the same way that they try to scream out cancel culture like they just previously did with Dr. Seuss, Mr. Potato Head, The Muppets, and whatever. It's because they want to go and try to keep the cancel culture flow going. But it's not just because of this New York Times article. It is also because of the fact that it was reported that Pepe Le Pew is actually not going to be appearing in the Space Jam sequel. Pepe Le Pew will not make an appearance on Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, granted, the reason why he was kicked out has nothing to do with the recent controversy about Pepe Le Pew. Because of the fact that he has been labeled as being attacked by cancel culture has nothing to do to why Pepe Le Pew got kicked out from Space Jam. There was a scene that was supposed to involve the character, but what actually happened was that his scene was developed when Terrence Nash was the director. But then suddenly, when that position got switched to Malcolm D. Lee, he decided to go and look at the Pepe Le Pew scene and decided, you know what, maybe it's probably for the best to get rid of that scene entirely and maybe just get rid of Pepe Le Pew in general. Now, in this article of Deadline, it actually did describe what actually did happen in that scene in particular. What was supposed to be the scene where Pepe Le Pew would make an appearance in Space Jam: A New Legacy. And it states here, there we go, Pepe was set to appear in a black and white Casablanca-like Rick's Cafe sequence. Pepe, playing a bartender, starts hitting on a woman at the bar played by Gracie Santo. He begins kissing her arm, which she pulls back, then slamming Pepe into the chair next to hers. She then pours her drink on Pepe and slaps him hard, sending him spinning in a stool, which is then stopped by LeBron James's hand. James and Bugs Bunny are looking for Lola, and Pepe knows her whereabouts. Pepe then tells the guys that Penelope Cat, you guys probably know as the cat that Pepe Le Pew would keep constantly chasing after in the cartoons, she has filed a restraining order against him. James makes a remark in the script that Pepe can't grab other tunes without their consent. And on a side note, by the way, Gracie Santo did speak out about this scene in particular being cut, and apparently she was very upset, mainly because of the fact that Gracie Santo is actually a victim of sexual harassment herself, and she wanted to have that scene to show that she wants to stand up against sexual predators that are kind of like Pepe Le Pew, kind of like her unleashing the anger that has been within her for many years and just let it all out on a cartoon character. It even says here that a spokesperson for Gracie Santo even states, this was such a big deal for Gracie to be in this movie. Even though Pepe is a cartoon character, if anyone was going to slap a sexual harasser like him, Gracie wished it would be her. Now the scene is cut, and she doesn't have the power to influence the world through younger generations who will be watching Space Jam 2 to let younger girls and younger boys know that Pepe's behavior is unacceptable. And on top of that, to add more fuel to this alleged cancel culture fire, Warner Brothers even put out a statement that there are currently no plans to have Pepe Le Pew appear in any of the recent Looney Tunes shows or any of the upcoming Looney Tunes shows. There are no plans for Pepe Le Pew to go and appear in the Looney Tunes cartoons, to appear in Bugs Bunny Builders, and to appear in Tiny Toons Looniversity. There's just currently no plan. It's not that they ever stated that they're retiring the character or that they're pretty much giving Pepe Le Pew the Song of the South treatment. They just have nothing really planned to bring this character back in any of the modern shows. So that's pretty much the big situation with Pepe Le Pew, and technically, why is it some people are saying that cancel culture is going after Pepe Le Pew? Mainly because of the criticisms against Pepe, on top of him being removed on Space Jam, and that there are currently no plans on bringing him back in any of the recent animated shows that are based on the Looney Tunes. Now, before I fully get into the scenario with Pepe Le Pew, I just want to go and make one quick comment regarding the whole cancel culture thing. Just a bit of a quick recap to my comments that I said last time when I talked about the Dr. Seuss controversy from last week. The whole scenario about cancel culture, I personally feel like it is the modern version of The Sky is Falling. I can't help but feel like this is nothing more but a massive distraction that is fabricated by conservative outlets and conservative pundits. Why would they go and make this a distraction? To go and distract people in order to keep them separated, in order to keep people divided, and to make others hate each other. To go and really make a mountain out of a molehill and say that cancel culture is going after this insignificant thing, which in this case is a cartoon character, just so they could get reactions from both sides to make them go and attack each other like, oh, did you see how this group of people is reacting to this little thing? These people are idiots. We need to go and hate them. We need to go and attack them more. So really, it's just nothing but a device to go and keep people divided. Not to mention that it's meant to be a distraction from the real problems that are happening in the world. Again, we are still currently living in a pandemic. So there are more important things that we need to go and worry about than just children's books or a cartoon character or a little potato head toy. We need to go and actually worry about things that do matter, that definitely do affect our lives, including the health and well-being of ourselves and of our community. And also we need to take care of our democracy as well, since there are plenty of places, especially in the United States, where there are Republican politicians that are going after that. And it's only the Democratic politicians so far, including the current US President Joe Biden, that are actually putting in an effort to actually do some good, to help actually unite people in order to solve the problems that actually do matter, including passing the $1 trillion stimulus plan that Joe Biden has been planning for a while, and that this week has been considered a major win for both Democrats and for Joe Biden to actually have that pass the bill that very few or even no Republican politician even voted to have that actually go and pass. It's purely the Democrats that did manage to actually make that happen, to actually have a plan for not just COVID, but also for the well-being of people in order to keep their financial situation afloat, as well as their health situation, on top of making sure that their democracy stays intact, that as many people as possible can go and stay and vote. And meanwhile, you got the Republican politicians that are barely doing any jack all. They're doing absolutely nothing to help out any of these situations that do matter. For them, they don't know how to handle the COVID situation. They know very well that Democrats are beating them to the punch, and that they just look like complete idiots compared to the Democrats in terms of how they're handling COVID. So for them, they're just trying to distract people with whatever they could go and find, rather it be Dr. Seuss, the Potato Head, or freaking Pepe Le Pew. Not to mention that they're desperately trying to apply some voter restriction laws. They're trying to commit voter suppression in a desperate attempt to make sure that they could still have their jobs and to keep conservatives in power in the United States. Because right now, the biggest enemy for Republican politicians is democracy. And those are the things that they're trying to distract you with cancel culture. It's to try to avoid these conversations, to avoid the talks about unity, about COVID, about democracy, and to keep people divided with small, insignificant things like Dr. Seuss or Potato Head or the Muppets or Pepe Le Pew. That's honestly my thoughts about the whole situation with cancel culture. It's nothing more but just a fabricated, just like this hoax, this fabricated. I'm trying to find the right word. It's nothing more but a fabricated distraction in order to keep people divided and nothing else. So, with that said and done, in the case of Pepe Le Pew, I think Pepe really is a massive example, really a definitive proof how this really is nothing more but just a distraction fabricated by right-wing media. They want to distract the fact that people are starting to be united. They don't want Republicans to start siding with Joe Biden, even though there is a massive chunk of them that actually do support the stimulus plan that Joe Biden actually did pass and that the Democrats have passed as well. They just want to keep that distracted. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. Yes, with Pepe Le Pew, this is the biggest example because just like I said, this discussion has already been done so many times before. We have heard so many times regarding the aspect of Pepe Le Pew feeling like a bit of a sexual predator in every cartoon that he's been on, or at least the classic cartoons that he's been on, where basically in those cartoons, he's just been doing the same shtick again and again, where he mistakes a cat for another skunk, he goes after her like crazy, and the girl tries to say no because of Pepe Le Pew's bad odor, but he still persists in trying to go and chase her and to go and actually catch her. Now, I am not saying that these things are absolutely shocking, that they're absolutely offensive. In fact, I would actually hesitate to really use the word rape culture. That might be a little bit too extreme. But those cartoons are certainly outdated. Like, yeah, it could be fun to still watch them to this day, but I'm not, like, I would lie if I said that I wouldn't be uncomfortable if I would watch any of the recent Pepe Le Pew cartoons. So you could tell that there is a bit of like this outdated nature. And even when it comes to Chuck Jones, I know for a fact that he's not a misogynist. Chuck Jones is not a sexual predator himself who has that same mentality as Pepe Le Pew, where he thinks this is how you get the girl. This is how you go and win her heart by continuously chasing her and keep getting her. Even if she keeps saying no, just make sure you go get her until she suddenly says yes. Chuck Jones does not have that mentality. It's just, that's how things were at the time. It's just back then, like back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, that kind of behavior was a lot more acceptable than it is right now. It's kind of like the argument of Dr. Seuss and is he racist? It's not that he is, it's just how things are at the time. It's just how this kind of behavior was very much normalized back then, and it wasn't until in recent years that we start to realize that this behavior is certainly not okay. But even at that, like, even if that it took some time for people to go and realize that what Pepe Le Pew is doing is not cool at all, we've already had these discussions. We've already had these criticisms about how Pepe Le Pew has been a creeper. It's not just this year, but we've already had these discussions a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I'm sure that these discussions have been brought up during the time Chuck Jones was alive. I'm sure even he put in his input on this. You know, we've already went through this so many times before, and yet in the previous days, Pepe Le Pew had never been canceled. We haven't seen Pepe Le Pew be completely taken out in plenty of the other recent Looney Tunes projects. Now, I know that there might be some arguments where like even back then, like back 10 years ago or 20 years ago, like those were completely different times compared to how it is right now, but it still doesn't change the fact that this viewpoint of Pepe Le Pew's behavior not being cool still hasn't changed. And yet, people haven't fully really done anything about it. So is it really going to change things right now? And like the only real difference to the arguments about Pepe Le Pew then and Pepe Le Pew now is just the way that the conservatives are taking it and trying to really display that as cancel culture. That they're really trying to make Pepe Le Pew the new face of cancel culture when they already used up Dr. Seuss so much. Which honestly, you could tell that this is nothing more but political manipulation, especially the fact that you really have to wonder, like, why would conservatives care about Pepe Le Pew in the first place? It's not like they've ever shown any interest on Pepe Le Pew before. I mean, like, we know that Pepe has been a conservative icon, but that's Pepe the Frog, not Pepe Le Pew. Like, this is the first time that Pepe Le Pew has ever been relevant in a long time. I think maybe the last time that he was this relevant is actually for the same reasons right now. It's because of how he is a controversial character and how his cartoons were outdated. So that's really the big difference between the whole arguments about back then and how things are right now. It's because Pepe is now just being used as a political tool in order to distract people from uniting with each other in order to fight off things that actually do matter, like fighting against COVID and to protect people's democracy. It's really nothing more but just that. Now, with that said, do I think that Warner Brothers should let go of Pepe Le Pew? Do I personally believe that Pepe Le Pew should be canceled, considering that I did state that, yes, I do see the old cartoons as pretty problematic? And for me, I gotta say, absolutely not. Hell no, I wouldn't want to see Pepe Le Pew be canceled. What I do feel, however, is that what I want to see is Pepe Le Pew to be completely rebooted. That honestly, yeah, sure, we can acknowledge the past problems and stuff like that, but there are better ways that you can go and do so. Like, I'm just gonna say this right now. I honestly am completely on the side of Malcolm D. Lee and Warner Brothers for taking out that scene of Pepe Le Pew. And honestly, the reason why is because, like, just reading about it, hearing the description of how it is, it's just not funny. It feels sad. Like, okay, I understand why Gracie Santo would be a bit disappointed that her scene was taken out, but still, like, there's just something about it that just feels awkward and kind of sad at the same time, where it's really going heavy-handed on Pepe Le Pew's controversy and kind of portraying him as really this sad character, and that, yeah, this, like, it really kind of portrays him in an awkward way that maybe this is someone that no character should really go and interact with, really portray him as just this very problematic character. And the way that they approach the subject, it just makes it feels uncomfortable and awkward than it would actually feel empowering, or it would feel funny or anything like that. Like, yeah, maybe that scene would actually be funny if it were towards an actual sexual predator, maybe someone like Harvey Weinstein, Vic Mignogna, Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey, or an actual sexual predator like that. But towards Pepe Le Pew, it just, I don't know, it feels awkward. It feels, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel cool. And it feels like it's just going to be more awkward than it actually is to go and actually see it feels awkward than it is actually entertaining, especially with the factor of Penelope Cat giving Pepe Le Pew a restraining order. It's just, there's just so much about it that feels more depressing than anything. So yes, I do agree that they should actually get rid of that scene and find a different way to go and approach Pepe Le Pew. And I'm just going to say right now that there definitely is a way that you can actually find that right balance, where you can actually get rid of that chasing the girl shtick, but still have the character feel like Pepe Le Pew, feel like the same Pepe Le Pew as he was back in like the 1950s. Maybe you could find a way to really emphasize the romantic aspect, but you could still keep the skunk aspect with le terrible odor and stuff like that. There are ways that you can actually find a way to make a rebooted Pepe Le Pew, but still actually feel like a Pepe Le Pew, because there is still a lot of appeal to the character. There's still a lot of characteristics that people actually do adore about Pepe Le Pew, especially when he's supposed to be the representative of love when it comes to the whole Looney Tunes gang. He's the more romantic kind of guy, so it's an element that it's hard to really take out from the Looney Tunes. And like Warner Brothers stated, they didn't fully say that they've retired the character. They just didn't really have a plan yet. They don't have a plan yet in order to have Pepe Le Pew make an actual comeback to any of their recent works. And there are ways that you can do it. In fact, I would love to see the Looney Tunes cartoons actually find a way to bring back Pepe Le Pew, actually make a new Pepe Le Pew character with a new scenario that would be more acceptable in the modern times. I honestly have full confidence that they would be capable of doing that, just like they did with Elmer Fudd. You guys might remember that Elmer Fudd went through a bit of a small similar controversy, a bit of a cancel culture controversy, you could say, when they ultimately decided to take away his gun, where Elmer Fudd is not going to be a hunter using a gun anymore, and instead just using a scythe. But even with that change of weapons, when you watch the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, it's still the same Elmer Fudd like he was back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. It's still the same Elmer Fudd that we all know and love, just using a different weapon to go after Bugs Bunny or whoever he's going out to go and hunt. So I think, honestly, they could probably do the same thing with Pepe Le Pew. Just give him a new scenario, but still stay true to the character that he's the more romantic type, but with really terrible odor. It is certainly possible that you can go and do that. So overall, with my opinion on this whole Pepe Le Pew controversy, do I think he should be canceled? Absolutely not. He's still a highly beloved member of the Looney Tunes team, and there are definitely ways that you can actually bring him back that's a lot more acceptable to the modern time, where you can get away, where you can remove that sexual harassment aspect of him, and you can still stay true to the character that everyone knows and loves. But at the same time, I do see where he is problematic, and I know that a lot of these criticisms are pretty justifiable because they've pretty much been repeated over the years, and there's been a lot of great talking points both for and against Pepe Le Pew. But is this cancel culture? Absolutely not. It's just because the timing of it all just seems to like all come together in order to spread this manipulative narrative, in order to spread this agenda, in order to continue this whole traction of cancel culture, to keep that that whole hate train going, in order to keep people divided. That's all it is. And considering the fact that this is nothing more but just manipulation that we have seen, like this kind of criticism with Pepe Le Pew, we have seen again and again and again. If he hasn't been canceled, then he's not going to be canceled now. So this really is nothing more but just conservative manipulation, just something that is fabricated by right-wing media and right-wing grifters like Fox News and Ben Shapiro, just for the sake of keeping people separate, to make sure that Democrats and Republicans never unite together in order to fight an actual evil that does matter, like COVID. So with that said and done, I just want to say, let's focus on the real issues, and remember that while we are still in a pandemic, until you fully get your vaccine, until you're fully vaccinated, remember to go and wear a mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing, and hold anti-maskers accountable as if they are criminals that are the cause of the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deaths around the world because of COVID. So, with that said, I think that should do it for this little talk about Pepe Le Pew, and I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you feel about the controversy of Pepe Le Pew? Do you agree with the criticisms? Do you not? Do you feel like this is cancel culture? Let me know what you all think about this. Let's see now. Honestly, I don't really care for Pepe getting cut out. I didn't even care for his cameo in the previous movie, so I don't have much to say about it. As for the cancel culture thing, it really stinks that this whole thing is dividing our society and it's just making things turn into World War II. Best thing we should do is get rid of cancel culture. All it's doing is kind of encouraging toxicity, war, and it's not even helping on stuff that's actually ruining the world today. Exactly. Like like nothing good can really go into like this whole cancel culture talk, because all it's doing is just spreading toxicity. It's just causing flame wars on the internet, and it's just really creating nothing but hatred. And really, it's not just the right-wing pundits that I want to go and blame on this, but it's also the media as well, that they are really playing a massive role by creating all these different articles about Pepe Le Pew, like not just like Fox News, but even like these articles right here, like on Deadline or on The Hollywood Reporter, or even on like NBC News, ABC News, like any of the media that's picking up on this story in order to like talk about cancel culture. It's obvious that they're just doing it for the clicks. It's obvious that they're just doing it in order to get more attention, in order to go and make more revenue. And that, honestly, I just feel like is absolutely dirty. So yes, the media should also be to blame in order to spread this entire cancel culture paranoia. Not just Fox News, but like I would say about everyone is basically guilty on this. Like, I know some people might say maybe that would mean that I'm also guilty on this because I'm also talking about this in my podcast. But still, though, it's just something that, like, unless you're actually pointing out the fact that this is nothing more but just a fabricated hoax to keep people divided, then really, you're just a part of the problem. All right, let's see what we got here. I don't blame Gracie Santo for what happened to her, because sexual harassment needs to stop and let the sexual harassers be punished. Pepe Le Pew was my favorite Looney Tunes character because he's hilarious, even going after animal women who are not skunks. But I guess it is for the best to let Pepe Le Pew to retire, since we're now living in an age where we have to respect women even more and help them with their life. And don't forget about Fifi La Flume from Tiny Toons as well. Well, that's the thing, though, is that I'm not saying that we should retire the character altogether. We should retire the whole shtick of Pepe Le Pew chasing non-skunk animals. That's the part that we should retire. There are still many ways that we could go and bring back Pepe Le Pew into the mainstream that would be a lot more acceptable. Like, there's much more to Pepe Le Pew than just the aspect of, he likes to go and chase women, even though, like, they would say no to him and stuff like that. There's definitely a lot more that you could play with the character. The fact that he is from France, the fact that he is a romantic type, the fact that he stinks to high heavens. There are definitely different things that you can do with Pepe Le Pew. Just because that he is associated with that one shtick, that doesn't mean you have to drop the character altogether. Drop the shtick, not the character. That's what I'm saying about this. Let's see what else we got here. My younger sister is asexual and uncomfortable with Pepe. Honestly, I can understand that. Way too touchy-feely and having no personal space. Hell, I felt uncomfortable looking back at your Looney Tunes look back on him, where you called him romantic. Make Pepe a romantic and flirt, but make him a predator who understands no. He'd protect his lady. But make him a protector who understands no. He'd protect his lady and maybe male love from a creep who doesn't understand the boundaries. That could be an example. Like, that could actually be a good thing. And maybe that could have been something they should have done in Space Jam or something like that. Like, actually portray, like, if we are going to bring back Pepe Le Pew, have him understand consent. Have him understand what no actually means, instead of trying to show him being like this, being a guy who still doesn't understand no, and still chasing the girls, and still and still getting like restraining orders and stuff like that. And I think that's the real depressing part about the scene that they wanted to do in A New Legacy. It's not really the fact that that Pepe Le Pew is getting beat up by someone who has a history of being sexually harassed, by someone who was a victim of actual sexual harassment. Like, the real depressing part is the fact that we see Pepe Le Pew still not learning his lesson, despite the fact that the signs are pretty much clear in front of him, including getting a restraining order, and when a woman flat out tells him no by slapping him and throwing a drink on his face. And that's the real depressing thing, and that's why I feel like it's probably for the best to go and actually get rid of that scene. Like, yeah, I understand Gracie Santos' feelings, but still, maybe for the best. Again, like, yeah, do it towards like a real sexual predator that like definitely would deserve it. But Pepe Le Pew, it's still like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see now. When it comes to Pepe Le Pew, I'm pretty sure he's not the important Looney Tunes character ever, or the most important Looney Tunes character, so I won't mind that he's not in the movie. Although it does raise the question, if the womanizer character archetype like Pepe Le Pew, Jim Kirk, and James Bond are considered to be outdated these days, and do you like that you're talking about politics without trying to be hateful? And I do you like that you are talking about politics without trying to be hateful towards Republicans. Well, okay, yeah, because the thing is that it's not conservatives that are the problem, because honestly, that's what people like Fox News and Ben Shapiro want you to try to think, or that's how they want Democrats to view Republicans. They want that division. They want people to hate each other. But no, it's really because of the pundits. It's because of these Republican politicians. It's because of Fox News. And it's because of commentators like Ben Shapiro that are really trying to cause these divisions. It's not the Republicans' fault. Like, I'm not saying Republicans in general that are hyping up about cancel culture. It's really because of right-wing outlets that are causing this whole paranoia for the sake of division and distraction from the fact that Democrats are actually doing their jobs, and that it should, at this point, it should be illegal for Republicans to work in politics, especially if they're going to be more like Donald Trump or Ted Cruz or Greg Abbott or any of those deplorable anti-American douchebags. You know what I mean? This is why we need to criminalize nationalism. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'll be entirely honest. Pepe Le Pew wasn't really a favorite of mine, so I won't be too upset about his extinction in A New Legacy. I also kind of get it, since now more than ever, sexual harassment is getting called out, especially in the UK with the Sarah Everard case. But I will say that the Pepe Le Pew cartoons aren't the worst things from the franchise. This post was made by the All This and Rabbits Too gang. Yeah, and that is true. I mean, they're not the worst. Like, the Pepe Le Pew cartoons are not the worst ones. I will admit, like, yeah, they are kind of uncomfortable, but they can still be funny in their own right. And there are definitely much worse Looney Tunes cartoons out there. Like, yeah, Pepe, like, trust me, I'd still take, like, even though, like, I still support, like, women's rights, I'll still take a Pepe Le Pew cartoon over a good bunch of the Censored 11 any day of the week. I'm just saying. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we're going to jump into the next story. Cancel culture is becoming more sad every day as most conservatives and Republicans keep focusing on that dumb topic than helping people that are suffering from the pandemic. For me, Pepe is not a horrible character, but he was problematic since the older shorts looked dated at the time. So I agree that Pepe should be rebooted in order to be brought back in the mainstream so many can relate to him. I hope Warner Brothers can do that in the future. Exactly. And that's ultimately the biggest thing that I'm trying to ask. I don't want Pepe Le Pew to be I don't want Pepe Le Pew to be canceled. I want him to be rebooted. I want him to have a comeback, but just without that problematic shtick. And I feel like there are definitely a lot of ways that you can do that to have Pepe Le Pew come back as the same Pepe Le Pew that we all know and love, but at least he would understand consent. So remember, people, when someone tells you no, it means no. Okay, now, moving on to the next story, we still got one more little story regarding cancel culture, or at least what people are claiming to be cancel culture. And if Pepe Le Pew was not enough proof, that really shows that this is nothing more than Republican manipulation, then oh man, this is it. This is the perfect example. And what I'm talking about is the controversy related to Disney Plus. Now, you might have heard that there was a bit of outrage regarding a decision that Disney has done related to some of the classic animated films that are currently on Disney Plus. You know, like you probably have heard related to things like Peter Pan, Dumbo, and the Aristocats. Of course, you know their problems. Everyone knows the problems of each of their respective films, and that is mainly because of the racial depictions of certain people of color. Rather it be Dumbo's with the infamous crows, Peter Pan with the natives and pretty much flat out presenting them as literal red men, or even with the Aristocats, with that one stupid cat during the song Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, where he's just there, Shanghai, Hong Kong, egg foo young, fortune cookie always wrong, oh, that's a hot one. Yeah, sure, yikes. But you get what I mean. Like, we all know about the controversies related to those movies in particular. However, there are some people out there that are claiming that now on Disney Plus, they are actually getting banned. But is that actually the case? Not really. Here's the thing. What actually did happen is that there are several Disney animated classics and there are some older programmings that actually did get the content warning. And you guys know what I'm talking about with the content warning. It's the same one in which why a lot of these Republican outlets are saying that the Muppets got canceled. That 10-second warning that pretty much described here. Actually, it did state here on my source here on Variety what they would pretty much say. It says, this program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. So, okay, that's perfectly fine. Putting up that content warning in front of those movies, perfectly understandable, and it's definitely the right thing that Disney has done. However, they decided to go and take one major step ahead, and they decided not only would they actually go and put up that content warning, but they also decided to remove those movies altogether on kids' profiles. So if you have an account that is more aimed for kids, which is for, basically just a program where you can't really access any of the older content, like stuff that's PG-13 or even rated R, then what they would do is that they would just block it entirely. Like, you can't go on a kid's profile and access something like Peter Pan or the Aristocats. But there is actually a major catch to this. And this is something that most news outlets would not tell you. In fact, this article on Variety is possibly the only one, or one of the very few, that actually highlighted this, that actually did discuss about one significant fact that has often been overlooked. This was a decision, as you can tell by the title, that is 5 months old. Disney already made this 5 months ago. Let me just go and read a little bit more on my source on Variety, where it'll give you a little bit more of a bigger picture about this whole controversy. It states here, in October of 2020, Disney Plus added a new content warning that appears as a slate prior to several older movies on the service that contains racist depictions, including Dumbo, Peter Pan, Swiss Family Robinson, The Aristocats, Fantasia, The Jungle Book, and Lady and the Tramp. At the time, Disney Plus blocked those titles from being accessed in the service's kids profiles, which is restricted to G-rated films and television shows rated TV 7FV. But the change was newly discovered this week by right-leaning media outlets, including the New York Post and Fox News, whose reports suggest that Disney Plus had only recently made the decision to block the pics from kids' profiles. Okay, now, before I fully get into this story, before we get to fully go and talk about this, I just want to go and start off by saying that, honestly, this is one that I do understand the criticisms. Like, okay, I understand what Disney is trying to do. I get what the motives and what the intentions pretty much are. And I do understand that putting up the disclaimers there, okay, that's perfectly good. And like I said, that's definitely the right thing for Disney to do. But but taking it to another level and actually restricting those movies from actually appearing in any of the kids' profiles, that I will admit is a little bit too much. That's a bit too extreme in order to restrict kids from actually watching any of the content from Disney Plus at all. And it feels kind of weird that now it can, like, those movies in particular would have to be accessed in order to, like, you got to go into an adult profile in order to go and actually see something like Dumbo or The Aristocats or Peter Pan and stuff like that. That can be a little bit too extreme, and I would say that maybe it's a little bit overprotective with what they are doing. I mean, yes, I understand the arguments that technically this is just for the kids' profiles so that the kids themselves don't go willy-nilly onto Disney Plus, and then they would stumble upon something like The Aristocats, and they would start things off with the disclaimer that they're not going to read, they're not going to care, and then suddenly they'll see that stupid cat going, "Is fortune cookie always wrong?" And they'll just see that as normal behavior. They'll just see that as something that's just perfectly fine. They'll not understand it. They'll just think the cat is just being silly and stupid. You know, this could be behavior that they could go and repeat. So Disney doesn't want that scenario to go and happen. So they decided to go and restrict it. Now, even at that though, that's not necessarily that big of a loss because those movies are still on Disney Plus. And it's up to the parents to go and choose if the kids should go and actually watch it, and it's their responsibility to point out that some of those depictions are just flat out wrong. It's up to them to actually go and explain to the kids why is it that these depictions are now considered racist and why back then it was fine, but why it's not fine today. That is the big thing. Excuse me, just need to clear my throat. That is pretty much the big reason why Disney would do that. And okay, in that sense, I can pretty much understand. But then again, there is also this massive hypocrisy with what Disney is doing. Yeah, you're blocking things like Peter Pan and Fantasia and Lady and the Tramp. And yet, you're not blocking some of the other content that's highly violent that you could still go and access onto Disney Plus, especially with things like The Mandalorian and WandaVision. Yeah, sure, you can't watch. Yeah, kids are not allowed to see any of the singing crows from Dumbo, but they're allowed to see The Mandalorian actually killing people or Wanda going absolutely crazy. Like, that's somehow okay to see kids. There really is a bit of a double standard, and their overprotectiveness just really made things kind of complicated. It's too complicated than it is. I think Disney should have stuck with just giving those movies a content warning label and just go from there. Also, not to mention the fact that it is kind of silly. The fact that now you have to go through an adult account in order to check out those movies. That just doesn't really make sense. Like, yeah, okay, like having an adult account, like it definitely does make sense, like in Canada or in countries that does have Star, where they would have like those mature content or even R-rated content, like the Die Hard movies or Deadpool and stuff like that. But in here, however, but in this kind of context, it's just it's kind of confusing. It just doesn't really make sense because it's Peter Pan, it's Dumbo, it's Fantasia, it's the Aristocats. Like, okay, yeah, maybe I understand Fantasia because, like, maybe the younger kids wouldn't fully get it, and there is harpy titties that you would go and see. But for everything else, it doesn't make sense, and it kind of makes it feel ridiculous. It's like, oh, you gotta sneak your way into your into your parents' account. You gotta go into the adult section if you want to check out Peter Pan. Yeah, like in that kind of in that kind of context, I would expect in Peter Pan that there would be a scene where Tinkerbell would seductively strip naked and we would see all the goods. And as much as I would love to see that, I know for a fact that it's not in the 1953 movie. So I don't really see the point, and I think that it's a little bit ridiculous that Disney would actually take it a bit too far and be a bit overprotective with that kind of decision. But with that said, is this considered cancel culture? Absolutely not. This is totally not cancel culture, and this is the definitive proof of how this is nothing but manipulation and division caused by right-wing outlets. Because all this is caused by the fact that, just like this article on Variety states, that this is only happening, this is only controversial because the New York Post and Fox News are pointing it out and trying to tell people that it's a bad thing, that it's all cancel culture, that this literally is right-wing media telling people how they want to think and try to make them say what they want to say. It really is a case that they want to have full control of the mentality of their viewers and have them really go all out into really just focusing on that aspect instead of focusing on the important elements. Like, maybe like these people freaking out about cancel culture, like I can understand why they're upset because maybe they have a kid's profile, because obviously with the way they're responding to cancel culture and they're freaking out because, oh no, cancel culture is taking away my cartoon character. They're taking away my Dr. Seuss book. They're taking away my Mr. Potato Head toy. You might as well have the mentality of a frickin' 6-year-old and be considered not mature enough to watch any PG-13 or rated R movies, or not even mature enough to see a freaking PG movie. So yeah, maybe you would need a kid's profile so that you wouldn't go and access on movies like Peter Pan or Dumbo, because you're obviously not too mature to go and act, or not mature enough to actually go and see those movies. Again, this purely is just manipulation, because this wouldn't even be a discussion in the first place if it weren't for the right-wing outlets to actually go and actually point this out as a desperate attempt of distraction from the real important things. This is not cancel culture at all. And also, let me tell you why this is not cancel culture. Okay, so Disney might have done a pretty stupid thing. What the fridge are you gonna do about it? It's not like you're actually gonna go and take a big step and fully unsubscribe to Disney Plus. It's not gonna make you lose your Disney Plus subscription. Like, even right now, like this week, there is actual proof that yeah, people will have all their reactions, people can have all their opinions, but it's not like they're gonna really do jack all about it. You know, that's the big, that really is the case with this. It's that, like, this week, during the annual shareholders meeting at Disney, they actually revealed that right now, there are more than 100 million subscribers to Disney Plus. Very much ironic, considering that a few weeks ago, those same people that are crying out cancel culture right now, they were screaming to high heavens to go and cancel their Disney Plus subscription because of Disney and Lucasfilm rightfully firing Gina Carano for being a completely insane person and having the same mentality as one of those terrorists who rioted the Capitol on January 6th. Like, really try to go and like, they really wanted to go and try to cancel Disney Plus and have their own brand of cancel culture to attack them just because they didn't have things go their way. And yet, if it is at the point where it's at 100 million subscribers right now for Disney Plus, I think it really does go to show that even among those conservatives who are freaking out about cancel culture, they for sure aren't unsubscribing to Disney Plus because all they were doing is just virtue signaling among their friends and among their peers. Because even for those conservatives, Disney Plus and all the content that's in it, including WandaVision and the upcoming Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is much more important than actually truly supporting Gina Carano. And that's all this is, man. And by the way, just want to make a big statement about cancel culture before I forget. Like, it's perfectly fine if you want to have an opinion on the situation. That's perfectly cool. And you can perfectly have your opinion. Like, you can have your say on it if you're okay with it or if you're not okay with it. That's perfectly cool. We can all have our opinion on the subject, but don't treat it like it's a serious issue. No matter what you think, this brand of cancel culture that we are seeing right now, it is a low priority compared to the real issues that we are currently seeing. Rather it be regarding COVID, regarding racial justice, regarding our democracy, or anything like that that actually does affect our lives. Screw Dr. Seuss, screw Pepe Le Pew, and screw the cartoons being like banned on kids' accounts or whatever. Those do not matter. These are first world issues. These are white privileged issues, not real issues that can actually affect our lives. That's the big thing that I just want to say with cancel culture, and hopefully we won't be hearing about this bullcrap for long. Seriously, it's just been getting so out of hand. And I actually did see at one point where those same people who wanted to keep the cancel culture train going, like, they were actually pretty close to trying to transition Pepe Le Pew to Miss Piggy, but obviously that failed completely, and there were a lot of strong arguments. In fact, toughpigs.com actually put up a really good article discussing about Miss Piggy and why, like, she doesn't deserve to be in the whole cancel culture controversy and why she doesn't fit in that narrative, or that there is no point. So that's pretty much the big thing with all this. And going back into the subject of the Disney controversy, like, yes, I do agree it's a bit over-exaggerated for Disney to go and actually ban these or restrict these movies from kids' profiles. It's a little bit ridiculous. But at the same time, this does not constitute as cancel culture. This is not real cancel culture. Real cancel culture would be something that would actually affect someone's life. In fact, let me just give you a good example of real cancel culture. The way that Piers Morgan tried to treat Meghan Markle. Because, like, maybe you have heard about the royals controversy and that big interview with Oprah Winfrey with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And then you have Piers Morgan, who time and time again just continuously attacks Meghan Markle, like pretty much portraying her as the devil, as the person that is ruining the royal family, and all the problems that the royal family has can all be blamed on Meghan Markle. Now that is full-on cancel culture, because you know Piers Morgan was just attacking Meghan Markle because of the color of her skin, because she is not purely white as much as the royal family. And yet, you don't see any news media outlets presenting that Meghan Markle is a target of cancel culture. You don't see Fox News saying that cancel culture is attacking Meghan Markle because of the color of her skin. Like, you don't see people like that. It's very rare that we would actually see cancel culture go, like, actually be called out for something that should actually be called out. So yeah, people like Meghan Markle, who was a real target of cancel culture, yeah, no, apparently people would be silent about it. But apparently for things like Dr. Seuss, for Pepe Le Pew, for Peter Pan on kids' profiles, apparently that's all freaking cancel culture. So again, just to recap myself, yes, I do see the ridiculousness of Disney's decision here, but this is not cancel culture. So, with that said and done, I just want to go into the chat wall, and it's time I want to go and ask you all, how do you all feel about Disney's decision? How do you feel about Disney's controversy with the fact that they are restricting certain classic films from kids' profiles? Do you think Disney is exaggerating with this? Do you think it's cancel culture or not? Do you understand Disney's decision? Let me know what you think on this. Okay, let's see what we got over here. Hold on a sec. There we go. Okay. 100 million subscribers. Congrats to Disney on the success of Disney Plus. I'm glad to be one of the founders of this amazing streaming service. Yeah, the story that the classics not being part of the kids section is just slightly dumb, but understandable because on its movies, depictions and stereotypes, I always wonder why does it need a kids section? It's Disney. Families watch it all the time. Yeah, I understand. And like I said, like in the United States, it's kind of questionable why there would be a kids account. That is a little bit weird. But it's perfectly understandable for places like Canada or in other places that would have the Star program. Because if you guys don't know, Star is basically the international version of Hulu. Like, if I want to go and check out something like Solar Opposites, I would be able to go and check it out on Disney Plus. And with Star, we actually do have access to plenty of the R-rated movies and plenty of PG-13 shows and movies at that. Like, even my parents right now, through Disney Plus, they're actually watching the Einstein series with Jeffrey Rush. Or I believe that's on Disney Plus, or I think. I'm not 100% sure. I should double check on that. But anyways, you guys understand. Like, yeah, if you have Star on Disney Plus, then it's perfectly understandable for it's perfectly understandable to have like parental guidelines and to have like a kids account and an adult account. It's mainly because of those R-rated stuff. But like in the United States, I don't know. Yeah, Genius. That's what. Yeah. That's what I was talking about. Genius. That's what they're watching. All right. Anyways, what else do we got here? I can understand Disney putting the disclaimer in front of these movies, but I think them taking out of the kids section of Disney Plus is a bit too far. While I do think these scenes are inappropriate, they are still classics. Also, I have to say, it really is saying something when the 2003 Peter Pan is the only adaptation to get the natives right. Yeah, that's the sad truth of it all. Like that's I remember when I saw it months ago for a requested review, and even I was shocked to find like, oh my god, there are native people, like real natives in a Peter Pan adaptation. Wow! Like, even nowadays, that's even a rare sight to behold. Like, not even the 2015 Pan movie was able to get that right. Like, when you got, like, who was it? Saoirse Ronan or someone like that. Like, they got some white actress playing as frickin' Tiger Lily, who is also the love interest of Captain Hook. And, like, when it comes to the natives, well, it doesn't matter who they are because they would end up in a genocide where their death is literally exploding a color. Like, even the chief explodes in purple. And I'm not making that up, by the way. Let's see now. Who else? Oh, I'll go here. I don't know how to say, I don't know what to say on this because I still don't have Disney Plus. When I was a toddler, I saw Dumbo, the Aristocats, Peter Pan, and Lady and the Tramp on VHS with no issue, and this is coming from a guy who was born from Malaysia, Pakistani, Chinese, and Indian blood. It's not like a toddler would question anything that is presented on TV, so why censor it? By the way, speaking of Disney, my country, Malaysia, managed to get its hands on Raya and the Last Dragon in cinemas, which I managed to get to see myself. Well, no, I would actually disagree with you on that, because the thing is, yeah, like, with toddlers, when they would watch something, yeah, they would probably just, like, see this as nothing but, like, as just, like, just, like, as a distractor. Like, they wouldn't understand the things that they are watching on TV, but at the same time, toddlers are the most easily impressionable people out there. Like, whatever they see on TV, there is a good chance that they would just imitate it. And especially when it comes to something like Lady and the Tramp with the Siamese cats, or with the natives in Peter Pan, that's not necessarily behavior you want to see your toddler react to nowadays. So that's the real iffy situation with them. Let's see what else we got here. I think people are brain damaged with cancel culture. Chicken Little may be my all-time favorite Disney movie, but literally, Peter Pan, Aristocats, and Dumbo are some classics in their library, but literally, just leave Disney alone, you brain damaged idiots. Some people get on my nerves, and I just want everyone to be positive. Disney did do a stupid move. What's next? Disney is going to say that Chicken Little won't be on a kid's account because he is blind? No, the reason why they would take out Chicken Little is because the movie is not good enough, and there are better movies out there for kids to see. No, I'm just kidding, man. I'm just freaking kidding. Okay, let's see what else we got. I think I'll just go one more comment before we jump into the next story. Let's see here. Do we have... Oh, okay, there we go. I don't see anything wrong with a younger person watching Peter Pan or Dumbo, but because of the content warning, this should be an opportunity for parents to teach kids about past prejudice. But apparently raising your kids is too hard. My parents would research anything with a PG-13 or a T for T rating that I should be interested in seeing if I could realistically handle it, or if it could turn out fine. Yeah, exactly. And I think that really is the biggest problem about all this, is that Disney is being way too overprotective, and they're not trusting parents to actually go and do their job. They're not trusting parents to actually go and trust them in order to teach the kids about why these depictions are wrong. It's not really the best idea to go full-on Song of the South on these properties and actually let the parents actually do their job to tell the kids that these depictions are not okay. And if they can do that, then they are doing their jobs as parents. But if we still see kids today behaving the same way as they would just by impersonating things that they see in stuff like Peter Pan or in the Aristocats, then that would actually be the parents' fault for actually being bad parents. And that should go and conclude the cancel culture portion of this episode. We still have plenty of more things to go and discuss. And our next big subject to go and discuss about is actually going to be regarding the box office. And we got a couple of major stories to go and discuss. And the first thing that I would like to talk about regarding the box office is actually going to be related to the latest Disney animated feature, Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, I have seen a variety of reactions, but the grand majority of it so far seems to be very positive, where the reactions seem to be just good, and then there are some that's like absolutely amazing. Even for me, I would say that I really liked Raya and the Last Dragon. I think it's actually a step up from the recent sequels that we got, like Ralph Breaks the Internet and Frozen 2, where it has some very beautiful animation. Kelly Marie Tran did a beautiful performance as Raya. She did an amazing job. And even the action is very well paced. It's really intense. And honestly, I feel like what Raya did right is something that Atlantis and Treasure Planet, they wish they could be. This is the action-packed Disney movie that they wanted to make a couple of decades ago, and they've managed to finally do it with Raya and the Last Dragon. However, there are some people out there that are saying that it's a major disappointment. Not necessarily the movie itself, however, but what I'm referring to is actually regarding the box office. Yes, you might see some news outlets out there where they all unanimously said that Raya and the Last Dragon was just a massive box office disappointment, where it really did not do as much as movie theaters were hoping that it would do, only collecting an opening weekend total of $8.6 million in just over 2,000 theaters domestically. And I believe the worldwide total is said to be $26.2 million. Now, the big significance with this number in particular is mainly because of the fact that the other family films before Raya, they managed to do much better. And that is something that people feel are very concerning, especially with the results of Raya. For example, the family film that was released the week prior to Raya, Tom and Jerry, actually managed to make a total of $14.1 million on its opening weekend. Whereas The Croods: A New Age, for example, that actually managed to make $9.7 million. So that seems to be the big concerning element. It's the fact that Raya did not do well as either Tom and Jerry or The Croods: A New Age, especially with Tom and Jerry. That seems to be the big question. How the fridge is it possible that Raya and the Last Dragon, the latest Disney animated feature to be highly praised by both critics and audiences, is doing significantly less than something like Tom and Jerry, which is already a strong competitor for the worst movie of 2021? How is that even possible? Well, there's actually one major explanation to this, and when it comes to the box office, I can pretty much say right now that Raya and the Last Dragon was at a complete disadvantage when it comes to the amount of movie theaters that it could actually be viewed compared to Tom and Jerry. It's not as widely available as Tom and Jerry. And the big reason for that is because with Raya, that actually has a lot more restrictions compared to Tom and Jerry. You probably have heard about the news that when it came to Raya and the Last Dragon, there were several movie theater chains that refused to show the movie altogether. These include Cinemark, which is said to be the third biggest movie theater chain ever, or I think in the United States. There's also Harkins, and there's also Cineplex, which is the biggest Canadian movie theater chain. In fact, some could actually argue that Cineplex kind of has a monopoly in terms of Canadian movie theaters. So if your movie is not going to appear in Cineplex, then you're going to lose a big chunk of Canada, or maybe even the grand majority of Canada. Whereas Tom and Jerry, on the other hand, that seems to be doing perfectly fine. That seems to be going well with being released in theaters, no problem. But hang on a sec, that seems kind of weird though. Isn't it kind of strange that Raya and the Last Dragon didn't get as much theaters as Tom and Jerry, yet both of them are kind of doing the same thing, where Tom and Jerry is being released both in theaters and on a streaming service on HBO Max, whereas Raya and the Last Dragon, that's being released both in theaters and on Disney Plus. What's the difference here? What is wrong with this situation? Well, the big reason is actually because Warner Brothers actually did make a deal with movie theater chains. Yes, a lot of movie theaters were massively upset when Warner Brothers did put out the news that for the rest of 2021, they would actually go and release their movies both on the big screen and on HBO Max. So, in order to make amends with movie theaters, Warner Brothers decided to go and reduce the price of their rentals so that movie theaters could actually go and rent those movies and put it up on their big screen. Disney, on the other hand, with Raya and the Last Dragon, they decided not to budge. They wouldn't do any kind of deal with Raya and the Last Dragon, which did leave some movie theater chains like Cinemark and Cineplex to be a bit butthurt and decided to retaliate by just not showing it altogether. And as you could tell, it did come with a bit of a major price, where they did lose the number three exhibitor, as well as the biggest movie theater chain in Canada. So that would be a massive hit at the box office. It would be a massive blow to Raya's results. And like I said before, it would already put Raya and the Last Dragon at a massive disadvantage when compared to something like compared to Tom and Jerry. And at that point, that's why we are seeing a lot of people saying that it's becoming a box office bomb. It's a flop. It's a massive disappointment that people don't seem to care as much about Raya and the Last Dragon, or to go to their local cinema to go and check out something like Raya and the Last Dragon or the latest Disney animated feature on the big screen. But does that mean that this is a flop? Does that mean that Raya and the Last Dragon is a disaster and Disney is going to be losing millions of dollars on it? Absolutely not. Because Disney has one secret weapon on their sleeve, and this is actually the true reason as to why movie theaters and why the industry is considered disappointed and even a little bit scared to what happened to Raya. It's because of Disney Plus. Now, this is going to be something I'm going to ask you a little bit later on the chat wall, but here's the thing. You guys probably know that when it comes to Raya and the Last Dragon, if you want to go and access Raya, you would have to go and pay a premium access. You'd have to go and pay $30 to see it. Now, that is already considered to be a bit of a controversial decision right there. Like, some people have already debated on this, especially when it was first announced for the Mulan remake. Yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of controversy. But here's the thing that really scares movie theaters when it comes to premium access with Disney Plus. Now, when you would go and buy a ticket to see a movie on the big screen, the money that you gave for that ticket, that is pretty much split 50-50, where half of it goes to the studio and the other half goes to the movie theaters. But then you would also have digital releases. Like, let's say you would want to go and see Tom and Jerry on iTunes. You would go and rent it on a platform like iTunes. 80% of that would actually go to Warner Brothers, would go to the studio, where 20% would go to the distributor of it, to the digital platform, which in this case is Apple. But then came Disney Plus. So you're spending $30 to go and see Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus and had to pay the premium access. Every cent, every dollar of that $30 that you spent on that premium access all goes to Disney. It doesn't go towards any other platform. It doesn't go towards any other movie theater. It all goes to Disney. And really think about it. All that for one movie, spending it on $30, you could imagine how it could be so easy for Disney to go and make a massive profit out of it. Like, let's say in this scenario, like, we don't, by the way, we do not have the actual numbers, by the way, of how many people actually did download so far Raya and the Last Dragon, but let's put up an imaginary scenario. Like, let's say that there have been so far 5 million people that went on Disney Plus and bought the premium access to go and check out Raya and the Last Dragon. And each of those 5 million people actually spent that $30. In total, that money that Disney has made is $150 million. $150 million on Disney Plus alone. And keep in mind, nowadays, the average budget of a Disney animated feature is around that, somewhere between $100 million and $200 million. It's somewhere around that number. So already you can imagine that with that $150 million, it already broke even with the budget of that film. So whatever they would make at the box office, that's just extra revenue, thus making Raya and the Last Dragon a massive success. It's actually a hit for Disney. And that is the biggest thing that movie theaters are scared of the most. It's not the fact that Raya is flopping at the box office, is if Raya would become a success because of Disney Plus. In fact, there is actually a little section in this article on Deadline that actually does go into detail about what they really do fear. It even says, still, Raya's release isn't, actually, yeah, okay, so there are a few parts, so just start with this one. Still, Raya's release is striking plenty of fear for rival distributors and for exhibition. That's particularly after Disney CEO Bob Chapek's recent remarks Monday at a virtual investment conference hosted by Morgan Stanley, in which he said things like, the consumer is probably more impatient than they've ever been before. And that given how the pandemic has brought a number of movies into the home, he's not sure there's going back to the way films were distributed prior. Even though Chapek said, we certainly don't want to do anything like cut the legs off a theater exhibition run, many are concerned all of this is code for Disney moving forward with their theatrical day and date Disney Plus model, and that Black Widow may emulate the same distribution path as Raya on May 7th. It would even go on and say, what's scaring many about Raya is that Disney gets to keep 100% of whatever they're making from the $30 Disney Plus PVOD purchase of Raya. Disney doesn't have to split that PVOD revenue with any exhibitor. It was explained to me that Raya's $30 price point on Disney Plus is roughly equivalent to the rental that Disney would get from 5 or 6 movie tickets. Wow. While I've heard Warner Brothers has been partners with exhibitors and have made a deal on terms of their same-day HBO Max titles, Disney hasn't budged. So that's the big thing that they are fearing the most about Raya. That's why they're saying that it's a disappointment. That's why they're saying that they are scared. It's not the fact that Raya is bombing at the box office. It's the prospects that Raya could actually do very well on Disney Plus, and thus Disney might not necessarily need movie exhibitors, and that Disney could still move forward with their plan on just releasing it both on Disney Plus and in movie theaters without actually making a deal with movie theaters. Even though there are some movie theater chains that try to retaliate and try to not show Raya, like Cineplex and Cinemark, the biggest fear right now is if Disney's plan is going to work. And that's the big lesson that we do have to take here, is that we cannot just rely on the box office alone to determine if a movie is going to be a hit or if it's going to be a flop. There are several factors now. We can't just look at the box office numbers. Now we have to check how much money it made through digital services and through video on demand services like with premium access and stuff like that. And we also have to go and check the amount of views that it would get on streaming services such as Netflix to determine if there is a lot of people who watched it and if there is a lot of interest to go and see that movie. There's a lot of major determining factors regarding if it would be a hit or a flop. It's going to be more complicated, but that's just how things are right now, because now there's not just one way of releasing a movie. And for now, we just don't know if Raya is going to be a hit or a flop. But if we want to know if it's going to be a success, we cannot look at the box office. We have to look at the amount of downloads and the amount of premium access that has been purchased through Disney Plus. And that's going to be the determining factor on how Raya is actually going to be a hit. All right. So, with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all, how do you feel about Raya and the Last Dragon and its current situation, either at the box office or on Disney Plus? Also, if you are going to comment as well, I would like to ask, if you have seen Raya and the Last Dragon, please ask me, which platform did you use? Did you go see Raya on the big screen? Or did you watch Raya on Disney Plus? That would be something that I would love to know. Let me know what you think on this. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So let me see. I really want to know I want to know which platforms that people has done, just to really make a point on this. Let's see. I'm seeing some people saying that they've seen it on Disney Plus. Let's see now. I am so surprised Disney are losing money over Raya. Like, I knew it was going to be a bomb because of the coronavirus. Level 5 restrictions are in my country right now, and Raya and the Last Dragon have made a total of €0 in my country, and we are expected to be in the toughest restrictions until May, so Raya is going to be an enormous bomb in Ireland. But again, Disney Plus, though, like, how much is it going to make on Disney Plus? Boy, you're forgetting about something, people. I'm just saying. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, we got a theater person. I saw it in theaters instead of Disney Plus, and I thought it was good despite problems like the humor, pacing, story, and message, for example. But hearing the news of the box office sounds disappointing compared to the freaking 2021 Tom and Jerry. But again, it ain't the box office, folks. Who cares about the box office? It's all about how much it made on Disney Plus. That's going to be a real factor onto how much it made. Like, really, you got to accept the reality that the box office doesn't really matter as much as back in like 2019. Let's see. I'm a little disappointed that Raya didn't make as much money as anticipated, especially since it's a pretty good film. Hell, I'd probably call it the best film of 2021 so far. Though, to be fair, since the only other 2021 films I've watched are Tom and Jerry and music, there isn't a whole lot of comparison. Well, I mean, that's not really fair. I will say, though, that I hope they will pick up with films like Black Widow if vaccines rollouts keep up. Hell, I'm gonna get my vaccine on Thursday, so that'll be fun. Oh my god, lucky you. I'm starting to know more and more people that are getting the vaccine, and I feel kind of jealous. You know, I'm honestly getting excited I'm honestly pretty excited to actually get my vaccine, so I can't wait for that time to actually come. So I'll be ready. I'll be ready when the time comes that I'll be eligible to actually go and get the vaccine. I know I'll be like one of the first to go and get a reservation and to go and like drive wherever I need to go in order to get that vaccine. Let's see. It's kind of funny that it seems that whenever Disney does a more serious movie like Black Cauldron, Atlantis, Treasure Planet, and now Raya, it will all automatically fail at the theatrical box office. I can understand why theater owners are scared right now, as they aren't getting any money now, and I'm not really sure what they should do about this. Well, that's the thing. It's like, we don't know. We don't really have a true answer. The only thing they can do is probably just surrender to the streaming overlords. And yeah, I do understand there is a bit of irony that if Disney is going to do something that is action-packed, then chances are it's not going to win at the box office. I think the only time that it actually did work out was probably just Big Hero 6, and that's it. But even at that, though, that's not really an action-packed movie, and it's more like just a superhero movie. So I don't know if that really does count. Let's see, what else do we got here? I'll go with, Yeah, sure. I'm not real. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll read two more comments and then I'll jump to the next story. It's really not that. I'm really not that surprised this happened, considering how we are still in a pandemic. Raya wasn't going to do that well financially. I actually have a Cinemark theater near me, so I had to watch Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus for $30. And do you think, since Raya and the Last Dragon did not do well at the box office, do you think this will encourage Disney to either delay Black Widow or put it on Disney Plus with a premium access? Honestly, when it comes to the aspect of Black Widow, I can imagine either or. I think it really does depend on how Raya does with with Disney Plus. If Raya turns out to be a major hit with Disney Plus with the premium access, then I could totally imagine that they would do so with Black Widow as well. If not, then if Raya didn't really make all that much money, then I can imagine they'll just end up delaying Black Widow and the rest of the MCU films. Let's see now. This is an unfair comparison. Raya and the Last Dragon is a masterpiece, and it got screwed over by the live-action Tom and Jerry. That's obviously BS. Also, guys, did you people forget that the movie theaters are still closed? LA County are about to open next week with limited capacity. I agree Raya is considered to be a hit with both critics and audiences. Many cult films did do better on home media. And that could be the case, and technically, Raya and the Last Dragon has said that it's going to be for free on Disney Plus in June, and also probably is going to come out on home media as well. So maybe by that time, there'll be more people who will discover it and might get a little bit more recognition. So who knows about the future? But again, this is all to say that we need to stop relying on just the box office alone. If we are going to determine about the success of Raya and the Last Dragon, then we have to go and take a look at how much it makes on Disney Plus. And now it's time that we are going to jump onto our next story. And with the next story, by the way, this is literally breaking news. This is a news report that happened today as I am recording this. Yes, this is a very rare occasion that this would happen, that I would actually pick up a story just before starting the podcast, but this is actually a bit of a news flash that is actually going on. And once again, this is related to the box office. And again, I know I already said that some people might not be that interested, but this is actually a pretty historical moment. Because guess what? Avengers Endgame has actually gotten dethroned by none other by the movie that Avengers Endgame dethroned in the first place. What am I talking about? Well, that is actually related to Avatar. Yes, folks, as I am recording this, today, James Cameron's Avatar has managed to overthrow Avengers Endgame to once again become the highest grossing feature film of all time. Now, some may be wondering, how the fridge did it manage to do that? How was it possible for Avatar to go and dethrone Avengers Endgame? Well, I will tell you. That is actually because of a recent surprise re-release that it got in China. And apparently in China, they really want to go and eat up Avatar. They really love the movie. In fact, some people could say that a major reason to why Avatar was a massive success in the first place is actually because of China. So with the fact that it's being re-released in theaters, of course there are going to be a lot of Chinese audiences that would actually be pretty excited to go and check it out on the big screen again. Especially like now that things are starting to ease up when it comes to COVID restrictions, and most likely in China as well. Like that would probably give them a reason to go and watch it on the big screen. But the question is now, how much did it actually make? Well, the thing is, on this day, it actually did happen that they have surpassed Avengers Endgame, where Avengers has a total right now of $2.797 billion. And right now, because of yesterday and today, where Avatar actually got $12.3 million more to add on its box office, thanks to China, it is right now $2.802 billion. $5 million more than Avengers Endgame. And keep in mind, it's only starting. Like with James Cameron's Avatar, it only begun with its re-release in China. So that's going to accumulate a lot more in the future. And so, that seems to be the current situation. And really, I don't know what else to really go and say. Oh, actually, there is one thing to go and quickly add, and that is actually a comment from one of the producers of Avatar, John Landau, where he states, we are reading from my source here on Deadline, by the way. We are proud to reach this great milestone, but Jim and I are most thrilled that the film is back in theaters during these unprecedented times, and we want to thank our Chinese fans for their support. We are hard at work for the next Avatar films and look forward to sharing the continuation of this epic story for years to come. And that's pretty much the big thing. That's where we are currently seeing a pretty historical moment where Avatar has managed to reclaim its position as the highest grossing film of all time, even more so than Avengers. And I guess it's safe to say that, of course, a big part of it is because of these current times. It's actually because of the pandemic. It really is caused by the fact that we are like there isn't really much big movies that are coming out on the big screen anyways. So the best thing that movie theaters could do is just re-release old theaters. You probably have seen it during the times that movie theaters, when they are open during the pandemic, for the most part, they would go and try to fill up the big screen with some older movies that we have already seen many years ago, whether it be something like Zootopia, or even Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or maybe like another Avengers movie, like put up Black Panther again, or put up something like The Dark Knight, or something like that. That they basically want to try to find a way to encourage people to watch movies on the big screen by putting up some old classics to experience like some of their favorite movies in a way that they couldn't before on at home and stuff like that. Like, you want to have your opportunity to go and rewatch something like to go and rewatch the first Frozen on the big screen. Well, now you can, because of the pandemic, because there really isn't much that's going to be put up on the big screen anyway. So it's more of a tactic to go and actually encourage audiences to come back to theaters. And I guess that's the same thing with what happened with James Cameron's Avatar and put it up in China. And it looks like with that one, things seem to really work out very, very well. And it really shows the power of the Chinese market. And I think because of what we are seeing right now, because of this news that did happen, I think this just justified Disney for continuing to make these Avatar sequels, and why we should not be surprised that when those Avatar sequels are going to be coming out on the big screen in the future, they will indeed be massive box office hits. It could probably be questionable with how it's going to do domestically, like in North America, but it's going to be guaranteed in places like China, it's going to be a massive hit. And you got to realize the reality of the Chinese market, especially when it comes to movies with the entertainment industry. China is growing bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point that it could even overshadow the North American market, where the reason why we even have some major franchises, to the point where there's like a lot of them that don't seem like they're going to end, rather it be like the Transformers movies, or even Fast and Furious. A big reason why they are so successful, and why some of those movies did turn out to become billion-dollar hits, a big reason is because of China. That's where the grand majority of the money would come from with some of those films. And this is especially the case with Avatar, where China just loves Avatar, and it's a major reason why it is a massive hit as much as it is today. And even though nowadays, like when you would go on social media, whenever people would bring up Avatar, it would mostly bring up about its mediocrity. Yeah, as nice as the movie is, it won't stop them from saying that this is just a sci-fi ripoff of Pocahontas or Dances with Wolves, or, whatever movie that's similar to that type of like, oh, respect nature and respect the natives kind of film. Like, yeah, we've heard this story again and again and again. But in this case here with Avatar, it really shows that there is a lot of interest. Maybe not in our area, but in places like China as well, where they, like, even to this day, even nearly, how old is it right now? Is it like more than 11 years old? Yeah, I think that's the correct age. Like, even though Avatar right now is more than 11 years old, there is still a major amount of interest for people to go and check out Avatar. In fact, I'm just gonna say this right now. I'm honestly kind of surprised that Disney has yet to build either in Hong Kong or in Shanghai Disneyland to create another Pandora, kind of like what we see in Disney's Animal Kingdom in Walt Disney World. I'm surprised that they have yet to give another Pandora to either Shanghai or Hong Kong. Maybe they are going to plan that in the future when they are going to release those Avatar sequels. But that probably should be something that they should consider, especially when that's one of the biggest markets for Avatar in the first place. And with that said, though, I will say that even if Avatar did reclaim its throne for the highest grossing movie of all time, that still doesn't change how Avengers Endgame performed. That still didn't change the fact that with Avatar, that thing took like several months. Like, it stayed on the big screen for like a ridiculously long time, to where to which it would explain why it would have such a massive number. But when it comes to Avengers Endgame, like, that's a movie that broke box office numbers. That's where we saw history in the making. Like, it managed to beat out Avatar in no time. Like, it did take a few months, but it did had a regular theatrical run where it managed to beat out Avatar in a much shorter amount of time. And with that said, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one day we'll see Avengers Endgame actually get a re-release, and it could highly be possible that that movie would go and surpass it would go and surpass Avatar once again. That could still be a high possibility. Who knows? But overall, though, I think that's just a moment of like, we shall wait and see with how the current situation is with movie theaters. And maybe, who knows, like, maybe that chance probably wouldn't happen, and Avatar will just reclaim its position for a long time, even during its time when the movie would be out with all the sequels and stuff like that. That is still a high possibility. But of course, a major reason for its comeback is mainly because of COVID. It's very much a similar reason to why the Demon Hunters movie is now the highest grossing movie of Japan, even beating out movies such as Your Name and even Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. It's really because of COVID why it is even capable of doing that in the first place. But yeah, that seems to be the position where we are now. Like, we don't know if Endgame would get a re-release so that it could try to reclaim its position, but I don't know. It depends on what Disney wants to do. Like, ultimately, they are both Disney films right now. Like, Avatar is technically a 20th century movie, which belongs to Disney, and Avengers Endgame is a Marvel movie, which belongs to Disney. So it's up to them to consider which one would they want to have it be named as the highest grossing picture of all time. So who knows? Maybe Disney would want to keep it with Avatar. Maybe they'll want to have it be Avengers Endgame. Who knows? But we'll just have to wait and see. But for now, I guess we got a new king, and it's the same old king from before. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all, what do you think about Avatar reclaiming its position as the highest grossing feature film of all time? Are you excited for Avatar? Are you disappointed? Would you prefer Endgame to still have that title? Let me know what you think on this. Okay, let's see what we got. Hold on a sec. There we go. Okay. I don't much care for Avatar, aside from the spectacular Animal Kingdom ride. Which one, by the way? I think there are 2 right now in Pandora. So, anyways. Let's see now. But I really got to tip my hat to the film for climbing up and reclaiming the hypothetical throne. I prefer Endgame by a grand margin, which I think the grand majority of people do anyways. But I'll still give props to the remake of Pocahontas starring the Smurfs. But you know who the real winner at the box office, the real box office scuffle is? None other than Zoe Saldana. Yep, that is absolutely true. Yeah, it's like it's basically a scenario of no matter who wins, it's gonna be Zoe Saldana because she was in Endgame and she was in Avatar. So whatever it may be, it's gonna be a Zoe Saldana film that will claim that title no matter what. Okay, let's see now. I went to see Avatar in theaters with my dad and uncle a long time ago, and we loved it. Heck, I consider it one of James Cameron's biggest masterpieces ever since Terminator 2: Judgment Day. I'm still, I'm still interested in seeing the Avatar world. Ooh, excuse me. I don't know what's with the gas in me nowadays. I'm still interested in seeing the Avatar world at Disney World Orlando, Florida, since I'm moving to Alabama when my dad retires. And I did enjoy Avengers Endgame and consider it the best Marvel movie of all time, but I feel bad that it has been overthrown by Avatar. Have you been to the Avatar world, Animat? No, I haven't, honestly. I have not been to Walt Disney World since 2012. I mean, when the pandemic is over, I would love to go back, like, no problem at all. Like, I definitely would want to, but it's been quite a long time. But then again, I will say, like, that doesn't mean it's been a long time since I've been on a Disney park. Like, I have been at Disneyland in 2018, which is almost the same thing. But still, though, I definitely would love to go back to Walt Disney World. If there is a chance that maybe in the future, like if they still have like the 50th anniversary still going on, I would love to go there during that time. Let's see. What else do we got here? Well, looks like Avatar has taken back their throne. While I do much prefer Endgame, and I think it deserves the title much more, but I can still understand why Avatar was such a success. Though with Disney, it may not matter whichever movie holds the title as long as it makes them big money. Yeah, that's pretty much the two big winners here. Zoe Saldana and Disney. Those are the ones who are going to win no matter what in this fight. Let's see. It's pretty much a scenario where it's basically right now we're just seeing Bob Chapek with a Navi toy and an Iron Man toy just duking it out like, this. No, I'm the best box office winner. No, I'm the best box office winner. Avengers assemble. Yeah, that's pretty much my scenario that I'm seeing, in his pool of money. All right, well, let's see. I was surprised to see this news where James Cameron's Avatar reclaims its biggest box office throne. I just received this news a few hours ago before entering the podcast, and it still surprised me. All I can say is congrats to James Cameron and others for reclaiming the box office throne, and let's see if the sequel can outgross it to possibly make over $3 billion or more when it happens safe in theaters again. I doubt it. Oh boy, yeah, no, I don't think so. Like, I could be wrong, of course, but man, I don't know. Like, the thing is, $3 billion on one movie on an Avatar sequel? I don't know, man. I wouldn't put my money on that. I just can't. I'll go and read one more comment before we go into the grand finale now. Let's see. This was something that shocked me. While I'm not the biggest fan of Avatar and believe Endgame is a far superior film and deserves the title a lot more, I won't deny that there is still an audience. Plus, it doesn't matter how high is the highest grossing film, considering that they are both owned by the same company, so either way, Disney wins. Yep, that's pretty much the big thing. So I just want to say congratulations to the Avatar team and to the filmmakers like Jon Favreau and James Cameron for reclaiming their position, and best of luck to you guys on the sequels to Avatar. And now, with that said, it is now time that we shall jump onto the grand finale. And with this one, we actually got some legitimate animation news. Nothing related to cancel culture and nothing related to the box office. This is just straightforward animation news. And with this one, I can't help but feel like it's pretty much 50-50 with me. I feel like this could either be absolutely amazing, or this could just be absolutely cringeworthy. But either way, no matter the outcome, we will still have a K-pop movie. Yes, Sony Pictures Animation has officially revealed that they are going to be making a brand new animated musical that's going to be called K-pop Demon Hunters. To which I'm going to go and read from my source here what this movie is going to be about. It is said here, the movie is described as an action-adventure that follows a world-renowned girl group as they balance their lives in the spotlight with their secret identities as demon hunters. It will be set against a colorful backdrop of fashion, food, style, and music. And on top of that, we already got a little bit of a crew that's going to be working on this, including Hannah McMecken and Danya Jimenez, which is the duo that is also known as the writing team Hanya, who previously wrote the screenplay for Luna Likes. They are going to be in charge with writing the script of this movie, and we even got a couple of directors. This will mark as the directorial debut of Maggie Kang, who is noted to be the head of story of the Lego Ninjago movie, and Chris Applehans, who is the director of the upcoming Wish Dragon. And on top of that, by the way, we also got some noteworthy people who were previously Disney animators who are going to be in charge of the animation of this movie, in which we got Minju Helen Chen, who's going to be the production designer, and also Amy Thompson, who's going to be the art director. Both of them, by the way, have also worked on Raya and the Last Dragon. We also got a couple of quotes to read here from the directors themselves, in which Maggie Kang states, "Having been a fan of the genre since its beginnings in the 90s, this film is my love letter to K-pop and my Korean roots. It encompasses and celebrates everything K-pop is. It's the film I would want to see as a lifelong fan, and I hope the millions of K-pop fans out there in the world will feel the same." And then there is also a quote from Chris Applehans in which he states, "I always wanted to do a film about the power of music, to unite, bring joy, build community. K-pop is the greatest embodiment of this in our lifetime, and we're really excited to honor and showcase that through the lens of animation." And that's currently the big situation that's going on with this. It's the fact that Sony Pictures Animation is going to be making a K-pop movie, or specifically K-pop Demon Hunters, including presenting this artwork right now. Like, we already got a concept art where we see the three girls that are the K-pop group, and they also have behind them like these magical weapons that they would use in order to go and fight demons. They're in front of a big stage, and on top of them you see these Junji Ito like eyes and monsters that are looking at the girls. So yep, that's basically K-pop Demon Hunters. And for me, honestly, I feel like this could really go both ways on this. On one hand, I cannot deny that I could see this be completely awesome. Like, number one, already with the concept art that we do have, it actually does look pretty impressive. And if the movie is going to end up looking like this, then I think it's going to be in really good hands, especially the fact that we do have some animators who worked on Raya and the Last Dragon, and they have already proven that they could actually do extremely well with adapting Asian culture and putting that onto animation. Even though this is a different type of Asian culture with Raya and the Last Dragon, that's southeastern culture, and K-pop is Korean culture. It is a little bit different, but if they could do the same thing with Raya and put that onto K-pop Demon Hunters, then it's definitely gonna be a movie that would look awesome. And I could definitely see this would be the type of film that would really be action-packed, that maybe this could be somewhere in the veins of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm not saying that it's going to be like Spider-Verse, but I could see the same kind of style, that where it's going to be stylized, where it will stay true to its Korean roots and stay true to the Korean art style in order to adapt this movie, and also be very action-packed, where we are going to see these three girls fight against these demons and see a lot of creative designs with these different demons. I could definitely see the potential where it's going to be a great visual feast for the eyes and something that could be really action packed, using K-pop as like the template in order to go and present this musical in order to fight monsters and stuff like that. So I could definitely see the potential, especially in terms of the animation. So there are ways where I could see with this movie it can go right. And so far with what the directors have been saying, it looks like they want to put their heart into this, especially with Maggie Kang, where as a Korean person herself, she wants to go and stay true to her Korean roots in order to really make the movie not only visually beautiful, but to make it also very authentic to Korean culture, to not just make it look like a Korean movie, but also to make it feel Korean as well. So there can be some promise, there is some hope on that. But at the same time, there is also something about this that I can't help but feel a little bit suspicious. Like, on one hand, yeah, it looks cool, but there's also something else about it that just feels a bit off. Because when you look past, like, the animation and who's going to be working on it and all that kind of stuff, like, I can't help but step back, and if you look into the big picture of it all, this really is Hollywood trying to cash in on the popular trend of K-pop. That's really what it is. It really is Hollywood trying to make a K-pop movie and really trying to cash in on the recent success that K-pop has in the music industry right now, especially when it comes to group like BTS. Like, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that there's some kind of fat cat executive at Sony Pictures that, they're just looking up, they're just going through ideas and just thinking, you know what the kids like nowadays? They love K-pop. Like, those Korean people that are just singing, like, whatever Korean song, and they would sing it in pop and stuff like that. Yeah, that seems to be really popular. And even my daughter seems to love K-pop, and she really loves that group, BST or whatever BS thing they have over there. I don't know what it is, but how about we try to make a movie about K-pop? Hey, even better, like the kids like it, so why not give it to Sony Pictures Animation? I mean, maybe during their breaks from their Hotel Transylvania movies, they'll probably sneak in some kind of K-pop movie, maybe they'll do that. Oh, you know what else is also really good? You know what's also really famous right now? I heard that Demon Hunters is a really popular anime. Like, I was just going through, Crunchyroll and Funimation about what popular anime is going on, and apparently Demon Hunters is a real big one that people really seem to like. How about we try to go and blend those together, Yeah, Demon Hunters is Japanese, but whatever, it's Asian, they're all kind of the same. Why don't we mix that together? Let's mix K-pop with Demon Hunters. Oh, that's what we'll call it! That's the perfect title! K-pop Demon Hunters! Let's go and actually make that, shall we? So, you can imagine that scenario actually being that thing where it's really just trying to cash in on the whole K-pop trend, and not only that, but also trying to cash in on the popularity of Demon Hunters, especially nowadays. I think I said that before, but the fact that the Demon Hunters movie has now become the new highest grossing feature film in Japan right now. So you could see where, like, yeah, there is, like, some authentic feelings from the directors, but not really from, like, the whole big picture, especially the fact that it is coming from Sony Pictures Animation. And I know that this is coming from me and whatever, but that's also a major thing that I feel like I kind of have my doubts with this, because, yeah, I mean, sure, they, like, nowadays people view them as an acclaimed animation studio for making Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And yeah, I definitely agree that Sony did a phenomenal job with Spider-Verse. But then again, you gotta keep in mind that this is also the studio that is pretty infamous, more than most other animation studio, more than any other animation studio, debatably, that they would be the ones that would be so desperate to try to cash grab onto recent trends, and to really be desperate when it comes to be hip and cool with the young crowd. You know what I mean. Stuff like the Hotel Transylvania films, the first two Smurf movies, and not to mention, no matter what you say about Sony, they are still the studio that brought us the Emoji Movie. So that's one thing that I am worried about with this K-pop movie, is that it may not be as genuine, and it really does feel like an executive demand of trying to cash in on the success of the K-pop trend. Not to mention that I feel like the story that they do brought up, like at least the concept with with the K-pop group that's going to star in the movie, it just feels absolutely bland. I can't help but feel like we've heard about this story so many times before, about like this popular music group who also have this side gig of doing something that's incredible, like do some kind of like Josie and the Pussycat style movie, or stuff like that. But I feel like that's already been done in several movies and even in several TV shows as well, where you would have this music group, that is popular in their own right. And by day, they would be known as that music group, but by night, they would be also known as something a little more extraordinary than just being a music group. So in that regard, I just feel like it's bland. I feel like that concept is a little bit generic. So overall, that's why I feel like I'm kind of like in the middle when it comes to the like when it comes to K-pop Demon Hunters. On one hand, I can see how maybe the execution can really go and make things up for its shortcomings, where it can provide some beautiful visuals, it can make something really awesome, and it can actually stay true to its Korean roots in order to make a great feature altogether that not only would it be a visually spectacular feature, but it would also be a great tribute to not just K-pop, but also to Korean culture altogether. But on the other hand, I can't help but feel like this is just a Hollywood cash grab, desperately trying to capitalize on the recent success of K-pop, and that this could just turn out to be something that could end up being on the levels of maybe not as bad as the Emoji Movie, but somewhere close, because it still has that genuine feeling of trying to desperately cash grab on a recent trend while becoming so desperate to be cool and hip with the young crowd in the same way that they tried to do with the Hotel Transylvania films. So for me, this could go either way. Like, it could be great, it could be not, but ultimately, it's going to be something that we will have to wait and see. So best of luck to the people at Sony Pictures Animation, and who knows when this is going to come out. In fact, it actually did state that we don't have an official release date yet. And by the way, this is actually something that I do want to bring up. We're not even sure if this is actually going to be released in the first place, because one thing I will say about Sony Pictures Animation is that debatably more than any other studio, they would be the ones that would be most likely to jump the gun when it comes to announcing an upcoming project that they have, and yet it would end up not happening at all. I don't know. Like, I know that most studios are very much guilty of that, but I feel like Sony, more than others, are the ones who would most commonly have that happen to them. And we know plenty of examples of those, like regardless if it would be Popeye or Medusa, or even some of the upcoming Genndy Tartakovsky films. Like, I know that technically they say that they are still in the works with stuff like the R-rated Dog movie or that Black Knight movie, but we haven't heard from them in a very long time. We haven't heard about anything about those projects since, and honestly, I would not be surprised if it actually turned out that those projects were ultimately canceled. So who knows? But this is just something that I just want to say, to take the whole K-pop Demon Hunters thing with a bit of grain of salt, because who knows if it's even going to happen in the first place. But ultimately, again, we're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad, maybe it won't happen at all. But ultimately, let's find out what Sony has in store for K-pop. And with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you think about K-pop Demon Hunters? Is this a movie that you would definitely want to check out? Are you a little hesitant to go and see it? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Let me know what you think on this. Let's see. To be honest, I don't have interest or care about K-pop. I'm not against it, but it's just not my taste. As for the movie, it sounds interesting, especially to the animation, but since we're talking about Sony with their desperate attempt of making films modern, and especially to the guy that started it all with picking up the Emoji Movie with Tom Rothman, so overall, I have massive mixed feelings towards this. And did you hear about the news regarding Spirit Untamed? Yes, I have heard about it, but I'm gonna be waiting until there's gonna be a full trailer that will be released. I think maybe next week we're gonna have a full trailer. I know Taylor Swift did upload parts of it, like less than a minute's worth of it, on her Instagram, but I'm gonna wait until we have a full trailer so that I can go and fully talk about it. Let's see what else we got here. This movie sounds like a bizarre concept, but I think it should work and would be really cool. And this is coming from someone who has years of experience of listening to J-pop and K-pop, plus my siblings being fans of anime as an added bonus. You know what else is cool? AniMat's Six Flags shirt. Yeah, it is true. This is something that I've had a long time, but I feel like, considering that we are talking about, like, one of the subjects is about Pepe Le Pew, I might as well go and find a Looney Tunes t-shirt to wear. And so far, I think this is one of my very few Looney Tunes shirts that I do have. So might as well might as well stick to the theme, you know? Let's see. From the looks of it, this is really eye-pleasing and could look amazing in motion. On the other hand, it does seem like something this would be just to get big money from another country, in this case, South Korea. And it does also seem pretty generic in terms of the story so far. As for my feelings of K-pop in general, I know nothing about nothing about it except the meme about that are pretty bad. So K-pop, more like K-poop, am I right? Let's see now. I'm not into K-pop, so I don't really have any interest in seeing this, but this could either end up being really awesome, or it could end up being as bad as Gem and the Holograms. So I think this is something that we'll just have to wait and see, but one thing's for sure, at least it'll do well in Korea. Yeah, most likely. It would definitely do it, and already I am seeing some concerns in terms of the comments over here. It looks like, yeah, like it does point. You guys are definitely pointing out one major flaw with this film, is that it is true that it is going towards a niche market. Like, it does sound like a movie that you'd have to be a fan of K-pop in order to actually get into this movie, or to really get into this concept. So already we are having a problem here with the idea of K-pop demon hunters. Let's see what else we got. Let's see here. Oh, we got a fan here. In my opinion, I think it's pretty much sold. I think it pretty much sold me on this. Taking place in Korea with no mainstream animation studio, which no mainstream animation studio has done before. Action-oriented and musical in K-pop style, which I never listened to K-pop before. Then again, it might not come out well when the overall film might turn out to be disappointing. But I'm very optimistic. I'm more into Korean films nowadays, especially with Parasite, so I hope it turns out amazing. Oh boy, well, honestly, that would be nice. It would be a great thing to see Sony Pictures Animation turn out something that could be as good as Parasite, but it's Sony Pictures Animation, and let's be honest, no matter on which side of the fence you are with Sony, their movies are generally not on the same levels as Parasite, so I'm just warning you right now. Let's see what else we got. As someone who is not really a K-pop person, I really don't care about this. And for your correction, is Demon Slayer, not Demon Hunters. Whoops. Oh, really? Oh, crap. All right, sorry about that, folks. I apologize for that little misunderstanding. Anyways, yeah, it could be a nice tribute to K-pop music and Korean culture, but it worries me it might be another corporate-made movie only to appeal to K-pop fans only. By the way, another show I could compare this is a French show called Lolly Rock, since it has a bit of the same premise. Yeah, exactly. I know this. I knew this is not the first time that this happened. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we go and cap this off. Let's see. To be honest, Animat, I have doubts. K-pop is an okay genre for music. Dead by Daylight and adding a K-pop killer coming, and I am confused because it's just a horror game. Sony Pictures Animation are a mediocre movie, like making crap like the Emoji Movie, and making cinematic classics like with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm going to quote Soul, let's see how you do. And I think that's probably the best that we could ask. It's just wait and see with how they're going to do it with this. And with that said, I think that should conclude with today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So let's go and hope that next week we won't see any more cancel culture stories. Seriously, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing this stupid crap appear again and again over dumb, insignificant things. But I do have a feeling that coming next week, we are going to be talking about some major stories, so brace yourselves for what's going to be to come. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!